You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah!
All right, good morning, everybody. It's early, but it's not bright, as my wife reminded me this morning. But it is early, and it's time for you to pick up that phone, dial 850-763-0555 if you got an automotive question or you're trying to figure out, I've been working on my car for the last couple of weekends, and I cannot seem to solve this, whatever, fill in the blank. But the biggest thing that I see that people work on that have the hardest problem that, I understand it's hard, is putting wiring back on, troubleshooting wiring, or what's electrical problems. Why does my battery run down? That's something I see a lot of people struggle with. And there's a good reason you struggle with it. If you don't have the right tools, it's almost impossible to do. Just the right tools I'm talking about is you're going to have a low amp clamp. You have to have a low amp clamp, and you got to have a way to read the amount of amperage, milliamps. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about milliamps. There's 1,000 milliamp in an amp. And we're looking to have where your vehicle doesn't have more than 0.050 milliamp draw on your battery after everything goes to sleep. Too many people, I shouldn't say too many people, too many technicians out there seem to never learned how to diagnose this problem. And if you've got a technician that you're having problems getting him to diagnose a parasitic drain, or why my battery goes dead, and he can't explain it. He says, I just don't know what's wrong with it. There's a way to figure it out. It's really not that difficult, but you've got to have a low amp clamp. You've got to have that low amp clamp where it reads in milliamps. That's why they call it a low amp clamp. And you've got to be able to have a digital voltometer to do voltage drops. And the best way I know how to describe this is you've got to find out how much make sure you time everything out. What I do is I go to my doors, all my doors, and I close all my doors. I close them with the door open. I reach down and hit the latch and make sure the car thinks the door is closed. That way I can get to the fuse panels. That way there's usually a fuse panel underneath the dash on the driver's side, or a fuse panel underneath the passenger side, or both. And there's usually a fuse panel underneath the back seat or in the trunk of vehicles. And so you may have to do the same thing to a deck lid, fake it out to make sure it thinks it's closed so you can get to the fuse panels. And once you get to everything, and you open them up where you can get to them, but you fake it out, push the button down where it thinks the hood is closed, make sure that you trip the latch where it thinks the trunk is closed, even though they're open. Give it about 30 minutes to an hour to time out. That's how long it takes things to go to sleep. I have some people say, I have 15 minutes. Oh, no, golly, I wish that was the case. I've seen as long as an hour. 45 minutes is quite common. An hour, it does happen, but I think I had one yesterday. It took up almost an hour, 55 minutes before it went to sleep. I kept checking it every 5 minutes going, I know this thing's still awake. It was pulling almost 2 amps. And then finally, after 55 minutes, it went down to 0.193, 193 milliamps. I went, oh boy, finally it went to sleep. So, you start looking for it. But how you do it is you get that low amp clamp, find out how much you're losing, how much you're drawing when the car is shut off and gone to sleep. It should not be more than 0.050 milliamps. And that doesn't matter if you're driving an Audi, a Volkswagen, a Chevy, a Ford, a Chrysler. It doesn't matter. They all have that. That's the acceptable amount of draw that your battery's allowed to have on your battery. Keep your radio presets, to keep things, just that slight amount. It's all it needs. It's all it needs. Keep the memory alive in it. And that's what ends up happening is we draw too many amps when the car is shut off, so after a couple of days the battery goes dead. Anything more than 0.050, it only takes, if you say you're running around 200 milliamps, which I was, that takes about 2 days. The battery's stone cold dead. It draws all the juice out of it, and you have to charge the battery up or jump it off, or both. You really need to you need to charge it up, then charge it up before you start the car is the best way to do it. Keep the alternator working so hard. But once you find out you got to draw, now you got to go to every fuse panel. You remember, where every one of them are at. You've located them underneath the driver's seat or the passenger seat or wherever they're at. Most cars have usually a minimum of 2. Sometimes I've seen some cars as many as 5 fuse panels on them. Mercedes and BMWs are notorious for having fuse panels just about everywhere. Underneath the hood, underneath the driver's seat, underneath the passenger seat. Or everywhere. But you go to each fuse and put it on the lowest volt setting you can find. and you go to each side of the fuse. If there's any current whatsoever going through there, I mean any current, I mean, we're not talking much. You're going to read anything other than when you put your digital voltmeter on this side of the fuse and your digital voltmeter on this side of the fuse, it should read 0, 0, 0, 0. If you don't have a good connection, it's going to read any, if you're on there and you say, well, I don't know if I got a good connection or not, you keep putting it on there. And if you have anything other than 0, either A, you don't have a good connection on it, or B, if you're sure you got a good connection, that circuit's alive. If that circuit reads anything other than 0, 0, 0, take your paint pen and mark that fuse. Go to every fuse that reads anything other than 0, 0, 0, 0 on your digital voltmeter and put a little paint dot on it where you can come back and recheck it after you've done all your fuse checking, because sometimes they don't time out as evenly with everybody else. Sometimes it takes them a little longer for one module to time out versus another module. So you mark them and then you go back and you recheck them. Once you recheck and find out that there's reading something other than 0, 0, 0, 0, and they got, if there's any current whatsoever reading on there, and that doesn't, if you've got any live current, you're going to read something on a voltage drop test. Very, very little. I mean, extremely little, but that tells you there's electrons flowing through that circuit. So you've marked them. Now you know which fuses are hot. Now you go to your database and you search out, what does that fuse control? I'm serious. That's how you do it. Does that fuse, is that on the alternator circuit? Is that on the starting circuit? Is that on the headlight circuit? The courtesy light circuit? The DVD player? The radio? The amplifier? The cruise control? The auxiliary fan? What does it control? And once you figure out what it controls, you say, okay, this is the things that it says it controls. And then I normally know what works on the car and doesn't work on the car. Normally when I get a car that comes in, it's got a voltage drop, or excuse me, when something is, not voltage drop, something staying on, first thing I always ask them, what doesn't work? Is the DVD player not working? A CD player not working? A CD hung up in a CD player? And most of the time they say, well, everything seems to work. Well, then I start paying attention to what's on that circuit, and then I go and start unplugging each one of those things on that circuit. If one shows a radio, if I go in there and it says radio, I go in and I unplug the radio. Then I recheck it again. If my drop voltage has gone down to where my voltage drop on that fuse gone to 0, 0, 0, there's my problem. Plug it back in, bangs back up again. I go, okay, we got a problem with the radio. This radio won't go to sleep. I've actually seen it where computers won't go to sleep. Body control modules will not go to sleep. Save my life. One of the ways I've come across that is I had a car that had, it was a Chrysler. A Chrysler, you start the vehicle up, everything run fine, charge, everything's fine, shut the car off, it had a drain on it. Had a drain, I mean a really heavy drain. I kept checking it out, and I found it, the fuse that goes to the PCM. This wasn't the body control module, this is to the powertrain control module. And I said, I can't believe it's that fuse right there, and it won't go away. Pull the fuse out temporarily, put it back in, the drain has gone away. I'm scratching my head going, wow, that's unusual. Turn the key to on, turn it back off, touch it, it's powered up again. It's still hot. Okay, give it 30 minutes, give it an hour, give it an hour and a half, still hot. Why is it staying hot? I don't know. Check out the circuit, it goes from the fuse panel to the computer. That's where it goes. I go to it, look at it again, it's a schematic, say it's got to be in the computer. Unplug it, take the fuse out, put it back in, the drain's gone away. I said, so apparently we've got a computer, once it gets power, it gets energized, it stays energized, it will not go to sleep. So that's what I ended up having to do, had to end up replacing the computer. Call the computer repair shop and say, hey, this is what I've got, can you take care of it? They said, sure, we'll send you another one down. You want the other one back? No, thank you for telling us what's wrong with it. If you've got one that's got a parasitic drain, we don't want that one back. We just throw it away. We can't use it. I go, really? And I go, yep, we don't want it. At least you found out what the problem is. Well, we don't even want a core on it. That's fine. Just you did the hard part on us. Let us know that whatever you've got is a drain on that. It's inside the computer. There's no way we're going to be able to fix it short of replacing the computer. And that's what's going on. But that's what drives people crazy when it comes to parasitic drains. It takes time. You cannot do it. I remember when I first started doing this, I used a test light. We'd take a regular test light, 12-volt test light, put one lead on the positive end, on the battery post, on the negative battery post, on the other end on the cable itself. If the light lit up, we knew we had a draw. There was something on. Well, If it lights up, that's a big draw. We're talking about over an amp a draw. We're not allowed to have more than 0.050. That won't even light up a headlight, or won't even light up a test light. It won't even light up an LED light. That's how little it is. But it's enough to draw a battery down very, very quickly if you have more than 0.050. If you double that to where it's around 100 milliamps, it will drain the battery down in about 3 days, 4 days. If it, about 5 days, 4 to 5 days, it'll drain it down. It gets up to 200 milliamps about 2 days. That's all you get, and then your battery's dead. So that's why it takes time to figure it out. 1, you've got to have the right equipment. 2, you got to have patience. 3, you've got to make sure you fake the car out, make it think it's gone to sleep. Make it think all the doors are closed. Take the key out of the ignition switch. Get it away from the car. Good 20, 30 foot away where it can't read the transponder. I'm serious. On some cars out there, it will be pinging, looking for that transponder. Haven't you ever walked up to a car with your key fob in your pocket and the light and the doors, the lights, interior lights light up? And you're 5 feet away from the car? That's because the car recognizes you're coming towards it. It picks it up. And that's always pinging, looking for things like that, depending on the make, model, year of the car. So that's why we have to remove the key. We have to put it in another room. That's why we have to make sure everything's asleep. And it takes anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to figure out where the drain may be, what circuit it's on. Then you get to figure out what part of that circuit's bad. We had one yesterday came in. You know, first thing we do, what doesn't work? We saw the rear DVD player doesn't work. Unplug that. Hey, that's probably what it is. Nope, that wasn't it. We saw that everything else worked on the car. Great. What doesn't work on this car? Nothing doesn't work but the DVD player. We unplugged it. Come to find out, the aftermarket wheelchair lift has a bleed through on the circuit board. And it's drawing around 200 milliamps. I looked, turned everything off. Got the shop dark, looked inside when the shop was dark, and I saw a teeny tiny green light glowing. I went, no, it can't be it. Teeny tiny little green light. Sure enough, that's what it was. I saw a little teeny tiny wire. I unplugged that, and my draw went away. I told the customer, you have a choice. Take it back to the people that sell this and have them put in a new circuit board, or put a knife switch on it. So that when you want to use the vehicle, and if it stays parked, I think this is a 2004 model, or maybe, I don't even know what year it is. It's about a 10 to 12-year-old car. It only has 22,000 miles. It does more sitting than it does driving. Put a knife switch on it. So when you get ready to use it, go put the knife switch down again. The battery's still fully charged. Start the vehicle up. Drive it. Do what you got to do. But if you're going to let it sit more than 2 or 3 days, pull the knife switch up, disconnect the battery. It's either do that or replace the circuit board that's inside this wheelchair adaptive lift. And that gets rather expensive and time involved. So sometimes the easiest fix is just putting a knife switch in once you know where the problem is. Hey, this is James Morris. Give us a call back, 850-763-0555. I think Karen Show may be calling this morning. We'll know in just a few minutes. Bye-bye, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.